Good morning, everyone. Good morning, ladies, gentlemen, those in between, maybe even some reptilian aliens that are watching. I don't know. Listen, before I get onto this live stream, right, let me just start by saying, like, what an absolute time to be alive right now. Like, I don't think you understand that we are, like, if you're alive right now and you are, like, in your late, you know what? If you're alive right now, it doesn't matter how old you are. You are living through history. In maybe like 50, 100 years' time, whatever, people are going to write back about what's happening right now in the world, and they are going to talk about how history is being made right now. So what I'm going to talk about in this live stream is the strike options imminent to the United States and how Britain needs to prepare for absolute chaos, carnage, all sorts of crazy stuff happening. Let me put the chat on. Sorry, guys. There we are. So is anybody under the illusion that this strike is not happening in the Middle East, guys? Is anybody under the illusion that this is not going to happen? So I am going to focus on that today. And this live stream is going to be a relatively short live stream because I want to do this into two parts, but I don't want those two parts to be combobulated. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to give everyone an update on what's happening now, and then I'm going to do another Prepping 101 video, and it's going to be Prepping 101, and I'm going to talk about what to do when these sleeper cells are activated. And look, guys, that's my speculation. That's my analysis that sleeper cells will be activated in the United Kingdom as soon as the United States start their campaign in the Middle East. What have we done? Nothing. That's just the way it works, guys. All right. So we can argue and, say who did what and who did when. And like I keep saying in so many videos, like, we are going to get to a point very soon where it's not going to matter. It's not going to matter who did what, who bombed who went stabby, who went rammy. All that's going to matter is we're in a conflict, and it's always best to win. It's always best to win those conflicts, right? So I'm going to be reading from, where is it? Give me a second. I'm going to be reading from this, guys, all right, from Sky News, and then I'm going to be giving commentary, right? So like I keep saying, well, I've said it once, actually, I don't keep saying it. This is going to be a relatively short live stream. I'm going to talk about this because it's happening, and then I'm going to come straight back on, and I'm going to do a Prepping 101, what to do when the sleeper cells are activated, right? And I want to keep these two videos separate. And I've got loads of other videos to do later on today, guys. I've got loads of other videos to do. I've got... like the stuff with the UFOs and the aliens, like, honestly, it's getting out of control. It's literally getting out of control. It's been confirmed now, and I'm going to do this in a separate live stream. It's been confirmed by Donald Trump's daughter that this is happening, right? So let's fixate on this, guys, for now. I'll then come back on, like, in 15 minutes after I've closed it down or whatever, and I'm going to do another prepping video, what to do in the event of sleeper cells activated, and then I'll come back and I'm going to do more UFO videos. Anyway, so how US military is assembling within striking distance of Iran. A huge arsenal of US military hardware is mounting for possible action against the Tehran regime, including something that gives away the possibility that any air campaign might be quite prolonged, not just a sudden one-off attack. So they're talking about a prolonged attack now. So I'm going to be reading off that article, and I'm going to be giving commentary on some of the things that I think are relevant. Now, if they're talking about what you've got to understand is Pete Hegseth, right? He is the Secretary of War, the War Secretary, right? And he's a veteran of Iraq and Afghanistan, and he understands that you don't want to get your troops bogged down in a long conflict, right? So what I'm going to speculate is going to happen is there's going to be, like we're looking here, a lengthy campaign which will see mass airstrikes because the United States can pretty much do what they want from the air. It will see relatively small deployments of US boots on the ground, special forces, inserting by air, extracting by air, seizing high-value targets, and that's how I think they're going to roll. I don't think they're going to have the big, although they may, I don't think initially, anyway, I think initially that's how they're going to roll. It may get to the case where they may need more heavy equipment. They may need more heavy artillery. They may need a heavy tanks on the ground. But I think as we are right now, the initial the initial phases is going to be US airstrikes. It's going to be US Special Forces moving in by CH-47, maybe V-22 Osprey. And that's what's going to, and that's how they're going to roll. If you guys can remember back when Donald Trump, and I'll come on to this shortly, if you guys can remember back when Donald Trump put on his Truth Social, help is on its way, I think history will tell us, when we look back at this, I think history will tell us that when he put that message on his Truth Social, that's when he ordered his military to move forwards. Remember, it takes time to get this sort of firepower into position. It takes time. You know, you don't want to, yes, of course, you can fly F-22s over there, F-18s, stealth bombers. You can't sustain that, right? You can fly them over for limited strike options. If you want to put in something like they did in Iraq 2003, full-scale 24-hour bombardment, anything with an antenna, anything transmitting, just gets a JDAM on it. So, like I said, guys, we are talking this morning about how US military action is inevitable now in the Middle East. That's what I'm saying, and I've been saying this for 2 years, and I've even given you guys the dates. I'm going to, can you remember, what's his name? Jeremy Corbell, and I'm going to be talking more about this later. They even got a date. We even got a date for the invasion. Raven gave me a date for the invasion. He's saying it's coming in March 2026. Oh, but everyone, Donald Trump's not even being elected yet. Well, turns out, whatever. Let's go with it, guys, okay? So Donald Trump told protesters in Iran that help was coming a little over a month ago. But at that time, there was almost no US military assets in that region that would make a significant difference. On January the 22nd, he spoke of a great armada assembling. What he was referencing to was the aircraft carrier, the USS Abraham Lincoln, and its strike carrier group. None of it matched his rhetoric, but by this weekend, it will have done so. As a powerful US military force assembles within striking distance of Iran, it has three main elements. And look, guys, you've got to understand what's coming, right? You've got to understand what's coming. If you live in the United Kingdom, I don't see any scenario, if you live in the United Kingdom, how this does not activate sleeper cells. And I'm gonna try and not give any practical tips now, because I am going to come back on and I'm going to do another video and I'm going to give my advice, what to do when this happens and what to do when sleeper cells in the United Kingdom are activated, because we all know they're going to be activated, right? We all know, nobody seemed to care, did they? When the Iranian regime was clamping down, 30,000 people went to the candy shop, high-end estimates, right? They're the high-end estimates, guys, of what happened in Iran, right? So nobody was out on the streets protesting. You didn't get the liberals going, Iranian regime, stop killing people, or whatever. That little bum, 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 bum. That little chant. There was no one out on the streets, right? Where were they all? Where were all the, pro-Iranian supporters out on the streets saying, oh, the Iranian regime has slaughtered 30,000 of its own citizens. Oh, it's disgusting. Where were they all, guys? I didn't see any, did you? However, wait until the US airstrikes start to go into Iran at scale. You'll see something very paradoxical. So let's talk about the three main elements of the Iran buildup, and I'm going from Sky News at the moment, guys. Okay, so first there is the naval force. The Lincoln, the USS Abraham Lincoln, and the strike carrier group will shortly be joined by the USS Gerald Ford and its strike carrier group. So when you have an aircraft carrier, you have ships protecting it. You know, I'm not a naval guy, so I don't know what the makeup of that would be. And you can also assume that there will be submarines with that as well, right? So you would say an aircraft carrier, frigates, destroyers, you know, I don't, battleships, I don't know what they call them. Other ships, supplies ships, logistic ships, you know, that will go with it, right? And then under the water, you would say you have an amount of submarines with that. And then you have the aircraft on these aircraft carriers. So you can imagine the sheer cost, right? The sheer cost of moving this stuff. It's a high cost, right? So the USS Gerald Ford is passing through the Gibraltar Strait within the next 24 hours, I'm told, and is expected to be on station south of Cyprus in about 4 days. Now that gives the dual opposition, then, doesn't it? You know, like the pincer, like the naval pincer. So you've got two Nimitz-class carriers will be bringing extra air defense and Tomahawk carrying destroyers with them, bringing a number of known and named US destroyers into the region to 11. They will join 3 littoral combat ships already on station and a good number of support ships as well. In addition, each strike carrier group includes, though never usually named, a nuclear attack submarine, probably the Virginia class. So with this stuff, they're taking nuclear submarines as well. Now, I don't know whether, you know, just because it's a nuclear submarine doesn't mean it's nuclear armed, but it probably will be. So now we've got a scenario where we've got nuclear weapons in that region. And there may also be Ohio class in that region. Now, they've all got Tomahawks. They've all got long-range strike capability, and they've got some huge capability in that region, right? Now, the second element that has been provided over the last 2 weeks or whatever is the extensive use of heavy lift aircraft landing in and around that region, presumably to cover the event of any Iranian retaliation in response to US attacks on Israel. Now, the aircraft that have been moving down there is pretty phenomenal, right? The United States have been slowly moving aircraft from the United States through the United Kingdom into bases in Europe. And I would say that RAF Akrotiri on the south coast of Cyprus is going to be key. Now, you can argue whether the United Kingdom are getting involved or not. There is no way, as far as I'm concerned, for entertainment purposes, there is no way that RAF Akrotiri won't be utilized. It's it's right there in the region, 400 miles from the coast of Israel. You can fly, you can refuel, you can refurbish, you can repair, you can rearm. It's on land, so you kind of can't sink it. Very difficult to sink an island, guys, all right? Even though some people have tried. There's also a lot of air-to-air refueling aircraft going down there. The United States have sent down an extensive force of air-to-air refueling tankers down there. Now, I think these air-to-air refueling tankers will be based at RAF Akrotiri. That's where I think they're going to go, guys. It just makes sense to do that, right? First of all, you're not going to land them on the back of a US aircraft carrier. Too big. So I think the air-to-air refueling will be down at RAF Akrotiri. Now, I'd love to find out, and I bet you can find this information. I just don't have access to it. If anyone lives in Cyprus around RAF Akrotiri, and I know it is a bit far out, but has there been a lot of fuel trucks going into RAF Akrotiri? I would speculate the answer is yes. I would speculate that answer. They've been really topping up their Bowsers and making sure there's plenty of fuel there, because don't forget, they are going to have to refuel everything. Now, if you double this up with what's already in the region, so you've got the Israeli Air Force. They've got fantastic air capability as well. The Israeli Air Force, where they're lacking the legs. Basically, they don't have the they don't have the air-to-air refueling, right? And flying to Iran for an airstrike, it takes a long time. You know, it takes a long time to get there. It takes a long time to get back. So you have to do air-to-air refueling. There's no other way around it. You have to do that. And the Israelis lack that capability. So that's what's happening in the region right now. And all this is at a massive, massive cost, all right? It's not easy. You know, it's not easy to send this stuff into, you know, it's not easy to send this stuff in, right? It costs a lot of money to send, like, all these aircraft carriers, all these aircraft, all the servicing, all the personnel. So at the same time, you have Iran, China, and Russia now conducting. I think they've started actually. Now they've started conducting exercises in the Strait of Hormuz. Now, from like, there's no such thing as exercises, guys. There really isn't. There are military war rehearsals, right? That's what all military exercises are. They're war rehearsals. Like, you're not going to exercise. You're not going to. So when you do an exercise, right, you get an exercise brief. You go, right. Okay. So the scenario is. So then you have to act on that scenario. You never do a scenario. You always train for the most likely conflict, right? Excuse me. So the Iranian, Russian, and Chinese military exercise that's ongoing, I think it's ongoing now, in the on the Strait of Hormuz, that is to complement their most likely scenario, whereby they are having, you know, foreign military ships in that region. And guess what? There's foreign military ships in that region. So it does look like it's going to come to a crescendo at some point in that region. There's too much military buildup. The Iranians are preparing. The Russians are supporting. The Chinese are supporting. And I'm going to stick by what I said 2 years ago, guys. All right, March 2026 is when this is going to happen. You've got to understand, to get those assets in place, to get them trained, to get them fueled, to get them ready. It takes time. You know, it takes time. And once this happens, you know, RAF Akrotiri is going to be used by X, Y, and Z, you know, whoever. They're going to be, I would speculate they're going to be doing refueling from RAF Akrotiri. And once that happens, there is going to be all sorts of crazy stuff activated in the United Kingdom. Right, let me jump up on the chat. Rod Panhard is saying, I'm still eating tinned goods and noodles I've stockpiled back in 2015. I'm never wrong, always just early. Yeah, you know what, Rod? When you can see these things coming, right? You know, you know what's coming. So you say, yeah, that's coming. And sometimes, you know, you get a little bit early. Gerald of Riviera is saying, pretty sure report of 2 Israeli F-35s being shot down a month ago or 2 ago. China and Russia are itching to try their tech against modern stealth aircraft. Yeah, I mean, this is so. Yes, and this all comes down to international sales, right? It all comes down to international sales. So, you know, if you can prove your equipment against someone else, and you sell it, right? And this is one of the reasons why I think that Donald Trump didn't give Ukraine Tomahawk missiles. Can you guys remember when the whole thing about US giving the Ukrainians Tomahawk missiles? I think from a business development point of view, it made no sense to give the Ukrainians Tomahawk missiles, right? Because if the Ukrainians used those Tomahawk missiles and they would have given them the older stock, those Tomahawk missiles would have been shot down by Russian air defense. And then Tomahawk missile sales, people have thought, oh, right, why are we buying Tomahawk missiles if they can be defeated? Revolution has arrived is saying something about the BBC that, you know, may or may not be true. Charlie Bronson is saying Andrew Mountbatten, guys, listen. Our economy is crumbling. America 37 trillion in debt, but billions, if not trillions, to defend Israel. Police cars arrived just after 8 minutes this morning. What? Guys, there's so much going on, right? There's so much going on. Can you guys remember when I said when remember when Andy Windsor was getting taken down, and they said, you know, and it came out on the news, and it said on the mainstream media, it said Andrew, the Prince of Wales, Prince Andrew is being stripped of his title. Can you guys remember what I said? You know, can you guys remember what I said? I said, listen, this is going to go swizzly. This is going to go swizzly. Whatever news comes out, it's taken, whatever news is coming, and it was the Epstein files, right? I said, listen, something's coming and it's huge, and it's going to, you know, and it's got the potential to take down a prince. Like, I don't think you guys know how big that is to take down a prince. Right, let me just Google this. Wow. 34 minutes ago. Wow, 34 minutes ago. Right, right, guys, listen, right. On his birthday. Right, so this is breaking news, guys. Let me share this with you guys real quick. Six unmarked police cars spotted. Six unmarked police cars spotted arriving at Andrew's home on Sandringham Estate. Unmarked police cars have been spotted at the Sandringham Estate this morning. Six unmarked police cars have been spotted at King Charles. Jesus, there's so much to go through today, guys. Six unmarked police cars have been seen at King Charles Sandringham Estate this morning, where Andrew Mountbatten Windsor is currently living. Today marks the disgraced former prince's 66th birthday. Siska, that's it. You will need to understand in esotism and symbolism. Police cars were seen arriving at the royal family's Norfolk home after 8 a.m. on Thursday morning and are believed to have raided the property. Jesus Christ. The vehicles are parked near Wood Farm, where Andrew is temporarily living in exile from the Royal Lodge in Windsor, with around 8 plainclothed officers seen attending the property. One officer was seen carrying a police-issue laptop. One of the cars drove down the front drive, and the other 5 went in the back entrance. I bet Andy Windsor's used to that, right? To the 5-bedroom farmhouse in the village of Wolferton. So I think that's all we're getting at the moment, guys. Police car. Well, look, I don't think there's any denying it. So the police have turned up at Andy Windsor's house. Look. Okay, my question to everyone is: do you think that Andy Windsor, do you guys think that Andy Windsor is the only one that's guilty? I mean, the elephant in the room here, right, is the elephant in the room is Prince Charles. Prince Charles's association with Jimmy Savile, right? Like, you know, that to me is the absolute elephant in the room, guys. No way. No way. Right, guys, if this is right, guys, I may have to come off and do, hang on, I may have to come off and do another live stream. So, my God. Right, guys, listen, ladies and gentlemen, it's all kicking off. Right, I'm literally gonna close this live stream down now. I'm gonna open it straight back up. Literally, stay here because I'm gonna give you all this right now, guys. Okay, so I'm gonna close this down. Right, I'm gonna close this down. I'm gonna come straight back on, and we are gonna be talking about the arrest of fucking Andy Windsor, right? This is huge. This is still happening. The chaos in the Middle East is still happening, guys. Sleeper cells are still going to be activated. I'm closing this down. I'm going to be straight back on in less than 5 minutes, all right? I'm going to be straight back on in less than 5 minutes, okay? Stay around, guys, because this is wild.